What's up? I'm back from London. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the SlasherTalk podcast. And I feel like it's been so long since we spoke because I pre-recorded the podcast episode for while I was in London last week. So I'm super excited to sit down, have our weekly chat. And a lot of you been asking about the London trip. Brother, it was an absolute blast. I had so much fun hanging out with Sydney and Gigi and Eli and Destiny. We got to meet a bunch of the UK horror content creators at the premiere of Gale Yellow Brick Road, which again, how fucking cool to say that the reason why I traveled to the UK for the first time was for a movie for a movie premiere because of like the horror content that I've been producing. Well, scratch that. I personally didn't get invited to the premiere, but having friends that do what I do and have built their channels, and I've made friendships and things, and was invited to this premiere because of the content. So like in a roundabout way, because I started creating horror content, I was at a movie premiere in London. Absolutely insane. Dude, it was so much fun. We did like all the tourist things. Our hotel was right, like you walked out of the front of our hotel and you could see Big Ben. Like, hello? What are you talking about? It was such a cool little environment. Every morning we would walk out and say, "Good morning, Ben." And every night we'd walk in, "Good night, Ben." Uh, so much fun. We did. Of course, we got to see Big Ben. We went to Buckingham Palace. Got to see the guards. We did high tea at the Ritz, which, listen, not my cup of tea. You see what I did there? But like, what an experience. I'm so glad that I had that experience, especially with, my friends, and what a stressful morning that was. You know this about me. I wear the most basic generic shit. Like 98% of the time, I wear the same things. I don't really leave the house all that much. I am in a black hoodie, black sweatpants. I'm cozy. I'm fucking chilling. And I was like, oh, we're going to London. You never know, like, what a dress code might be or whatever. So I threw in a black button-up shirt because I'm like, that'll be my fancy clothes. We scheduled high tea at the Ritz, and Eli, the morning, 2 hours, maybe like 2.5 hours before we're supposed to be at the Ritz for high tea, he calls and he's like, yo, what's the dress code? So we like scrambled, found out that it's a lot fancier of clothes than I brought. It was required to have like nice shoes, trousers, button-up shirt, a tie, like a fucking sports coat at the minimum. I don't have that. I didn't pack that. I don't even own that. Let alone did I pack it in my suitcase. So Eli and I scrambled, right, jumped out of bed and literally walked down to Zara in London, grabbed some shoes. I grabbed some socks. I grabbed pants. You could like rent coats and ties at the Ritz. So we just ended up doing that. But like, what a stressful morning. But man, if you ever have the opportunity to do a high tea, especially at the Ritz, again, not necessarily my vibe, my cup of tea, but it was an incredible experience. The food was insane. Just highly recommend that. I don't know, we just, like, did a bunch of pub crawls. I'm sober, so I didn't, like, partake in the crawling portion of the pub crawls. But I had some like non-alcoholic drinks and we had some great food, fish and chips. Did a lot of walking around. We got to see the Paranormal Activity stage play. Listen, when I heard about a Paranormal Activity stage play, I was like, there's no shot on the planet that this thing is actually scary. I was like, you're going to see some like lights flickering, maybe a TV goes on and off, maybe you hear some like creepy footsteps throughout the stage, a door is going to open, slam, and there definitely was that. But for those that haven't seen my video that I posted about it yesterday, when I tell you there was a moment in this play that had the entire theater screaming, I was so shocked and surprised. It was at the end of Act 1. Then you had like a 15 to 20-minute intermission to go into Act 2. Yes, they executed this so well, and I was like, "Do I like horror stage plays now?" I so badly wanna see, ghost stories on stage. That's a preview for what we're gonna be talking about a little bit later in the podcast, but loved it. I loved the Paranormal Activity stage play. So fucking good. Surprise of the trip, because I was like, "Man, like, I'm sure I'm gonna enjoy it, but there's no way it's, like, actually scary." Nope, I was wrong. It was pretty fucking scary. We found this 90s bar. The front it was a karaoke bar. The front of it was, like, this remade, like, Blockbuster setting with, like, shelves of VHS, and they had a horror section, but it was just like I was dropped right back into my childhood. Everything about this place was just 90s, and to get to the karaoke bar, the person would come out and say, "Hey, your table is ready," and they had you walk through a Pepsi vending machine. That was the door to get you into the next room that, like, transported you back into the 90s. It was so cool. Then you get back down, like, you, like, walk down these stairs with, like, fresh prints, photos on the wall and stuff, and the entire basement of this place is just full of 90s nostalgia, and they would only play 90s music, and you could only karaoke to 90s songs. The pizza place was, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, Cowabunga themed. Just so much fucking fun. So yeah, I'm not gonna go into, like, all the details of the trip or whatever, but just, like, it was an incredible trip, an incredible time, unforgettable experience. We got to go see Stonehenge, a bunch of alien rocks, and you will not convince me that aliens did not make that shit, especially seeing it in real life. I'm like, "How did the top rock get on there? There's no way." Great experience. I do wanna talk about Gale Yellow Brick Road. I've been asked several times. Like I said earlier, incredibly grateful to be invited in some way, shape, or form to this premiere and fly to London and go to this theater and be a part of the world premiere of this film that I was very, very excited to see. The trailer was so up my alley, and I was legitimately excited to see this film, and it just didn't land for me once the credits started to roll. There are some great aspects of the film, and it was super cool to be at the premiere and be in the room with, like, all the actors and the people that worked on the film, especially the director. Um, Before the film was shown, we got to hear, like, this story about how he came up with the idea and how he got his friends and stuff together to, like, make this fake trailer for Gale Yellow Brick Road, and how they spent all this time, like, writing and shooting it, and he pieced the trailer together and didn't like it, and kinda put it on the back burner for, like, I think he said a year, um and then coming back to it and re-editing the trailer because he's like, "People worked on this, it deserves to be out in the world," and re-edited it, and I think I think, do not quote me, but I think he said he still didn't necessarily like it, but he was like, I'm just gonna throw this out into the world. And this trailer went fucking viral. Like every horror news outlet picked it up and it was just being talked about. And he started getting like emails or phone calls or whatever from like studios that wanted to purchase the film. And he's like, I hate to break it to you, this is just a fake trailer. There is no movie to purchase, which reminds me a lot of like what Cunningham did with Friday the 13th. They took out that newspaper ad and they're like, the scariest horror movie ever made, Friday the 13th. And they had calls being like, I want to buy the film. There is no film. We still need to make the movie. So it was very cool to like hear the backstory and like to be in the room with people that worked so hard on this film and like to have their premiere on the big screen and to hear that it was gracing like 1,500 screens in the US for one night only on the 11th, which was last night. Incredible. I just wish I liked the movie a little bit more. There are some great aspects about it. I think there was a lot of great like cinematography. There's a lot of beautiful shots. My favorite aspect of the movie was Patches. I think his character design was incredible. Like so cool character design wise, and the execution of like like his like patchwork suit and his prosthetic makeup and just like how he was moving around on screen. My favorite part of the movie by far. It's just when the credits rolled, the story just never came together for me personally. It just didn't make a lot of sense. I felt like they were trying to do like, oh, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And it's just like very confusing. I don't know if any of you went to the theater to see it on the 11th. I hope so. I hope that people went and bought tickets and supported this film and that there are people out there that genuinely enjoyed it. I really do. It wasn't for me at the end of the day. So because my brain has been so like in London in the UK and we talked about the trip and the play and Gale Yellow Brick Road and everything has been like UK London based, I figured what a perfect opportunity to kind of go through some horror movies that were based in the UK or like made in the UK, British horror. I think that you can probably hear this topic and start, naming off a few. I'm going to name off a few, I'm going to talk about some of these choices like in more detail. I'm not quite sure how long this podcast episode is going to be. I won't lie. I'm exhausted. Uh I didn't think that like the jet lag and stuff was really affecting me all that much, but like getting back, going from like 6 hours ahead, coming back and being like, it's affected me a little bit more than I thought. And I'm just tired. So, but I didn't want to like let you guys down and not put out something this week. So I figured this was kind of a good compromise. So I hope you guys enjoy this, but off the rip, UK horror films, for me, it's in the name. Like, first thing that I think of really is an American Werewolf in London. And how could you not? London is literally in the name of this film. There's Peeping Tom. The camera operator in that film was operating in Soho. So this is a very famous British psychological, I guess it's like technically a psychological thriller, but we all know it as like this is a proto slasher. We talked about it in the history of the slasher episode. This is very much a proto slasher and laid the groundwork along with Psycho that would kind of like launch and be the foundation of like what slasher films would become, especially that first person point of view camera shot. That was Peeping Tom. Hellraiser, a lot of the main story of Hellraiser takes place in a house in North London, which is super cool. I'm not a huge Hellraiser fan, right? I wish I liked Hellraiser more because it feels so dirty as a horror fan to say, yeah, I'm not really a big Hellraiser guy, because Hellraiser is such an iconic horror villain. Pinhead. Um, I called him Hellraiser. Pinhead is such an iconic horror villain that it's weird to like, oh yeah, Hellraiser, eh. Um, I kind of like the first one. I need to rewatch the series. I just a lot of the back a lot of the back half movies of the Hellraiser franchise, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't even seen because I hear they're terrible. So I have no personal opinion, but just like when in general, the overall consensus of the horror community is that these set of films really aren't that good, I'm not really racing to watch them. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, Hellraiser was based in North London. Of course, 28 days later, 28 weeks later, when we were walking up to Big Ben, Sydney Horror Chronicles was like, I need somebody to record me. I'm going to recreate the intro to 28 days. And there's all these people around and stuff, but she crushed it. She just walked in front of Big Ben and just looking around. Hello? Iconic opening scene. And of course, that's all based in London. The Conjuring 2. I personally love the first two Conjurings. They're probably my two favorite of yeah, I mean, they are my two favorite of the Conjuring films. In the Conjuring universe as well, yeah, I'd probably say The Conjuring 1 and 2. But that was based in 1970s Enfield, which is a town in the northern part of London. Honestly, I didn't know that. I was going through London, UK-based horror films, and that popped up. I was like, oh, yeah, no shit. Yeah, it is. Dog Soldiers. Dog Soldiers, I think, when it comes to, like, werewolf films, this one gets brought up a lot, but I don't see Dog Soldiers talked about in general a whole hell of a lot. When it comes to werewolf films, I think American Werewolf in London gets brought up, The Howling gets brought up, I mean, Dog Soldiers does, but, like, Ginger Snaps, but I wish Dog Soldiers just in general was talked about a little bit more. I don't think it's, like, a 10 out of 10, like, fantastic film, but the practical werewolves in that movie, incredible. Dog Soldiers. The horror comedy Shaun of the Dead. I'm not a big horror comedy person, but Shaun of the Dead is one that I genuinely love. I need to rewatch it. It's been years, but the chemistry between Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, their banter back and forth, incredible. And for whatever reason, if you don't know Shaun of the Dead, which I don't understand how you could, but for those that maybe do not, Shaun of the Dead is a horror comedy that was based in North London during a zombie apocalypse. If you haven't seen Shaun of the Dead, please change that immediately. Sweeney Todd. I'm not like a big musical person, but Tim Burton's Sweeney Todd is one that I can watch. Of course, Johnny Depp, Helena Bonham Carter, but I think like the London gothic vibes, like just like the dark gothic vibes of that film and musical just does it enough for me that I can kind of like get past the musical aspect of Sweeney Todd. Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the person to sit down and just say, I want to watch a musical. Not genuine, like not generally my vibe, but there are a few, and Sweeney Todd is one of them. So there's a few quick ones. I have a list of ones that I kind of want to talk about a little bit more deeper, but of course, this is not like the ultimate British horror movie list whatsoever. There are going to be films that I do not bring up. So in the comments on Spotify or the YouTube video, please let me know what are some of your favorite British and UK horror films. I really want to know. So when it comes to UK horror, there are a few that jump up right away for me personally. One is The Descent. It's not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily take place in like downtown London or whatever, but the bulk of this film was like shot within the UK. And honestly, when you go to Google and you type in British horror or UK horror, The Descent's right there. The first one, and deservedly so. I had the opportunity to see, I think it was the 20th anniversary. Fuck. Yeah, 20th anniversary. All right, dude, bro, I'm getting old and I can't escape it, but whatever. I had Overlook last year, the film festival in New Orleans. They had a like 4K restoration 20th anniversary screening of The Descent, and I was not gonna miss that for anything. And even though I had seen that movie several times before, watching it on the big screen was like watching it for the first time. There was so much more that I noticed, like shadows in the back and just things like that, but seeing it on the big screen and with the sound system that this theater had, I didn't think The Descent could get any more scary, terrifying, claustrophobic. But man, seeing it on the big screen in that way, I it was fucking scary, dude. Straight up. One of The Descent to me, if there is a list of like must-see horror films, if like you were to give a list to somebody that maybe haven't seen a lot of horror, or you're putting together, give me 10 films that as a horror fan is like 10 must-watch horror films, The Descent, in my opinion, is on that list. I just think it's an incredible film. I know that there are some people out there that find it to be overhyped. It's not scary whatsoever. Maybe it's just my fear of like, I don't think I'm claustrophobic, but the idea of crawling through a cave, and especially those tight tunnels where you could get stuck. No fucking thank you. No, I have no desire to participate in anything like that. And how they portray that in the movie, I thought was expertly crafted, and just, no, kill me. Straight up. I don't care if there's like darkness, cave dwelling demons that are chasing me that will eat me, or if a rock is going to fall down and smash my face. As long as I'm not stuck in this hole suffocating because I have no air and I can't move, just kill me. Straight up. I want nothing to do with that. So, and we can't forget, The Descent, I think, has one of the best jump scares of all time. When it cuts to the handheld night vision camera vibe and she's rolling around the cave and she turns back and that fucking creature is standing behind. Still one of the best jump scares of all time. I don't care what you say, fight me. So we covered The Descent. If you haven't seen The Descent, don't tell me. Just don't tell me that, because you're going to piss me off. Okay? Just comment and say, of course, The Descent, the Descent is a masterpiece, Justin, for sure. And then like, go watch it. Just lie to me if you haven't seen The Descent. The Children. I think The Children is very underappreciated, very under talked about. And I think that's because it's not easy to find. Like, you can't go onto streaming and find The Children. It's incredibly hard to find it on physical media as well. This film is simply just hard to find. It's a film that I always want to bring up when I talk about like Christmas horror, because I think it's one that, again, it just doesn't get talked about near enough. So I'll read you the synopsis of The Children. It came out in 2008. It's a A relaxing Christmas vacation turns into a terrifying fight for survival as the children begin to turn on their parents. I do think in general, if you've seen this movie, it is a very hard watch because if you were anything like if you're anything like me, this is gonna sound terrible because I'm an uncle to very young nieces. I have a hard time being around young kids. It's this trigger for me. I hear that high-pitched scream or whatever, and there's a feeling that just burns inside of me, and my first thought is, "I have to get the fuck out of here." I don't wanna be around it. It's it's just triggering, and I know that might be like, you said the word trigger." Well, I don't trigger warnings, blah, blah. No, absolutely not, and that's what this movie is. It's so chaotic, and it's kids screaming and yelling, and the parents it's so in that aspect, it's a very hard watch. I just posted on, Facebook this morning about Vivarium, and I compared the kid in Vivarium to the kid in The Babadook. If those if those 2 kids from Vivarium and The Babadook, like, bother you, like, very much the same sort of thing here with just a bunch of kids screaming, but if you can find the children on a I just looked, yeah, it's not streaming anywhere, and it's very hard to find on physical media as well. I did find a copy at my local disc replay, but it's a, like, beat the fuck up. The artwork, I think it's like water damaged and printed from a printer. Like, it might be a bootleg of the children. Like, it is incredibly hard to find this film, but um it was based in it's a British film, so had to talk about that. If you ever find it, watch it. You might hate it, and then you can come back and yell at me, and that's okay. Um, his house. His house to this day, I think remains as one of like the most underappreciated, legitimately scary movies I've watched. And I have to give credit where credit is due. I always skipped his house, and it wasn't until I saw a video from Gigi, Room for Scream, and she had said his house and Anything for Jackson were 2 legit scary movies that don't get talked about near enough. So I went and watched Anything for Jackson, and I watched his house. And brother, she is not wrong. Like, I think both of those films are incredibly under talked about, underappreciated, but his house specifically, because it's a bit of like a slower burn, it's a bit of a drama. It's about this husband and wife. They are refugees and they're fleeing from the toxic situation in South Sudan. And I bring up his house because they flee to Britain. They flee and they get this they're assigned this house, and the house is in London. This might not have overly like British UK vibes because we follow this refugee married couple in their dilapidated house pretty much the entire time. But the house is based in London, and this movie, as it goes, there are so many scenes. I felt like the atmosphere was built so well, the atmosphere was executed so well that it just has this very creepy, this sense of doom and dread, and it has one of those scenes where, like, you can't see the thing that's running at you, but you hear the steps, and I hate that every time it happens in a horror film. It's got one of those, but where this movie goes, the ending of this film, unforgettable. It's so good. But again, whenever I bring up his house, because since I watched it from Gigi's video, I bring it up a lot for like Netflix horror movie recommendations because it's on there. And I also add this to my very underappreciated, legit scary movie lists that I put out, and I get a lot of comments from people saying, "His house sucks. It's slow, nothing happens, it's boring, it's not scary whatsoever, this movie blows, what are you talking about?" If that's your opinion, we just didn't watch the same movie. I don't I know what's scary is subjective and things, but man, it's just so hard for me to watch his house and go, "Man, how is this not scaring people?" But whatever. If for whatever reason you were like me and you continued to see his house pop up on Netflix, um, it might have been the poster and just like like overall I don't know what it was that I always skipped this movie, but regret, man. If you are like me and you have continuously skipped his house, do not skip it any further. Go to Netflix, pull it up, watch it. I genuinely think you will have a great time. Now, we talked about the Paranormal Activity stage play earlier in the episode, and I brought up I really want to start seeing like more horror stage plays. And I said, oh, we'll talk about this later in the podcast. Ghost stories. I guess I didn't know this when I watched Ghost Stories, the movie. Ghost Stories, the movie is a movie version of the stage play. There's a stage play of Ghost Stories. And this is another one of those films that I personally put on my underappreciated, under-talked about, legit scary movies because I don't hear anybody else talking about ghost stories, and I genuinely don't understand why. This has Martin Freeman in it, which I know people don't like him. I think there was some, like, behind-the-scenes stuff that went on with him. I'm not really sure. But last time I talked about it, people were like, "Oh, it's got Martin Freeman." I hate him. Okay. Um, but this is a 2017 horror movie. It's a British anthology horror film, and it's about this guy named Philip, and he like, his entire adult life is he's trying to, like, debunk, like, magicians and, like, psychics and things, and he's like, "All these things that you believe are actually real are actually fake," and his whole thing is, like, he's trying to, make people see that all of these things are fake, and where that came from is when he was a child, he really loved this, famous, paranormal investigator, and this guy's whole thing his name is, let me see, Charles Cameron. Um, he was a paranormal investigator, and his whole thing was, "I'm going to prove that all these events that people claim to be happening with paranormal activity are actually fake, and they're fraudulent." And so one day, Philip gets a letter from Charles in the mail saying, "Hey, Philip, here are 3 cases that I was never able to debunk, and I want you to take a look at those for me." And that's the entire setup. So that's where the anthology comes in. Once Philip accepts this, he's very intrigued. Um, the anthology is the 3 cases that this man was not able to prove were fraudulent. In my opinion, again, atmosphere, and there's just so much stuff within this movie that I thought was legitimately scary. I will say, as a disclaimer, I watched this movie when I was going through a phase of how do I put this? I guess I don't think I have to, like, there's no, like, terms and conditions or whatever, right? I was eating some candy that made me feel good. Let's put it that way. I was enjoying candy. And I had this, this phase, 'cause I don't know that I've ever brought this up on the podcast, but I just celebrated 4 years of sobriety from alcohol. So I've been 4 years sober from alcohol. I don't l I no longer drink, and I went through this phase to kinda, like, I needed something to get through the days and life in general, so I thought, well, it's a lot healthier to, eat some candy, and when I was in that phase, I watched this film. So disclaimer, maybe my candy enhanced the atmosphere, it enhanced the scare factor, perchance, per maybe. Um, but I get some comments here and there when I talk about ghost stories that, dude, you're not wrong. This film is legitimately creepy. It's scary. But I've always been recommended, if you love the movie, please go see the stage play. So, I saw a poster for it at the Ambassadors Theater where we saw Paranormal Activity. So I'm gonna keep my eye out. If there is a chance to see ghost stories on stage, like, in the UK, again, I might just fly out and go, because I love this movie. I think it's very underrated, very underappreciated, and now that I've seen a stage play, I'm down. I'm so fucking down. So, Ghost Stories, if you haven't seen that, I believe it's still on Shudder, AMC Plus, go check it out. Another one on Shudder that I think is incredibly underrated is The Power, and this came out in 2021. Now, The Power takes place in 1970s London. That's why it's on the list. London, baby. It's about this nurse in training, and it's her first night on the job, and she's in this hospital working on her, it's her first shift, and but it's during the time where they're having these massive power outages. So at some point, the hospital or the infirmary, because it says, her first night at the East London Royal Infirmary. At some point, this infirmary loses all lights, all power, and it's just her making her way through this, infirmary with this, light lamp. And I just think that vibe in a horror movie, it just speaks to me personally. That vibe can create just the creepiest atmosphere because the only light that you have is coming from this lamp. So you never know what's gonna pop out behind or whatever. If to me, it just creates such a dreadful atmosphere, and most of the movie is within that. And it turns into this there's, like, this supernatural thing going on within the infirmary, and again, in my opinion, this is a horror movie that I think is legitimately scary. I don't think it's gonna, like, make you jump out of your seat or make you not sleep at night or whatever, but when it comes to underrated, scary movies, I don't think The Power gets talked about enough, and I thought this was a perfect opportunity to bring it up because we just got back from London. Another absolute banger, in my opinion, of a horror movie that does not get talked about near enough takes place in the London Underground. And now that I've been in the London Underground, we took the tube a couple times, which, guys, just quick little, like, side note here. We were in the tunnel waiting for one of the, trains or subway, the tube, and we're just chatting amongst each other, and this guy comes over and was like, "Hey, just letting you know, um, we don't really talk in this, like, environment," and I don't necessarily think that we were being, like, loud, but after he said this, we, like, noticed that nobody was talking. Oh, okay, so, like, we are being loud because nobody else is talking. We got on the actual tube, nobody was talking. okay. And all of a sudden, I personally, and I think the group did as well, we became so self-aware that it was so quiet. Almost everywhere that we went, we went to a pharmacy and no one was talking. I was like bullshitting with Eli, just talking like in a normal voice. I wasn't screaming or nothing, but I felt like I was being so loud. So that was interesting. Coming from the US, I was like, people are just screaming all the fucking time. So, but to get back to the movie, I'm talking about Creep from 2004, and it's about a woman who gets locked in the London Underground. And I just got the physical media copy of this from Umbrella Entertainment. For the video people, hang on. For those watching the YouTube video, this is what I'm talking about, Creep. This particular set is from Umbrella Entertainment. And if you are a physical media collector and you are on the Umbrella train, brother, what are you doing? Because look at this set. It comes with like, here's the actual like Blu-ray with this great cover artwork, but it comes with like postcards of like the different stills throughout the movie, and most of their things come with like booklets that go into like behind the scenes and stuff. It's just an incredible, and look at this. This is what I'm talking about. What a fucking creep. I think this movie, again, I've said this over and over and over. I sound like a fucking broken record at this point, and I need to learn a new way to like describe these, I guess, because this is my job. But again, when it comes to like hidden gems, I feel like Creep is right there. This is one that I don't see a lot of people talking about, and I don't understand why. When I posted about it on TikTok, I think it was last year. Well, it had to have been last year because it's 2026. When I posted about it, there's a few people that said, "Oh yeah, this one's great," but I got a lot of, "Oh, this movie sucks." And I don't understand why you think that. This woman is trapped in the London Underground, and she's dealing with a fucking prick. This dude, I remember, okay, I haven't seen this for a while, but there's a dude that she gets stuck with, like, on the actual, like, subway, and this dude is a fucking prick. I think he, like, tries to, take advantage of her. I will put it that way. So he's a dickhead, and but while dealing with that, there's also this, like, what I showed you in the picture. There's this like London Underground, like descent looking creature guy that's like stalking her the entire time. Again, Creep, 2004. If you haven't seen it, I believe the last time I saw it in the US, it was on Tubi. Let me see. But nope, it got pulled off. Never mind. Tease. Sorry. It's not available to stream anywhere in the US, I guess. So that sucks. But you could go over to Umbrella Entertainment and get this cool little set. They didn't pay me to say that, by the way. I just love Umbrella Entertainment. I mean, look at this set. It's incredible. So yeah, Creep takes place in the London Underground, especially after being there in real life and seeing the system, that this movie would be fucking terrifying, dude. So, yeah, there's that one. Last one. Last one, and then I'm gonna leave you guys for the week. It feels like this is gonna be like kind of a shorter episode, whatever, but it is what it is. I cannot bring up UK British horror and not talk about one of my personal favorite horror movies of all time. Chuck, I hope you're listening to this, because this is one of Chuck the movie guy's one of, if not his favorite horror movie of all time. And if you follow me or Chuck, you know damn good and well what I'm about to say. Eden fucking Lake. And I know I've said this several times within this podcast alone, but people that do not like Eden Lake, not to be elitist or gatekeepery or whatever, but I just go, how are you a horror movie fan and you don't like Eden Lake? It's just about not everything, because I love a good, like, supernatural, spooky ghost and, like, things, but, like, this thing has just about everything that I could ever want within a horror film. It's brutal. It's just unrelenting. It's depressing and sad and just leaves you with this pit in your stomach. I love that shit. And maybe that says more about me than it does you, but I know when the topic of Eden Lake gets brought up, it's always a topic about the ending. And I've been on record many of times on my platform. You can go back and watch it. I personally, think the ending to Eden Lake is perfect. Masterfully done. I loved the ending to Eden Lake. And I think the people that did not like the ending just overall say, I don't like the movie, period. Which I've also been on record to say, I think endings in a movie are very important. I will bring up one movie that I got shit on for liking years and years ago, Immaculate with Sydney Sweeney. I thought the ending to Immaculate was so fucking good. It was so well done, well acted, and executed. The one take, everything about that ending for me personally, I was able to overlook any other faults that the movie might have had. I left Immaculate being like, holy fucking shit. So that, to me, if you look at it, like, the ending to Immaculate saved the film. So if you are viewing Eden Lake as I loved it all the way up until the ending, you're walking out of Eden Lake with a disappointment. And I understand that completely, if that's how you view it. That's not my viewpoint of the ending of Eden Lake, but I hear a lot, and I guess, like, spoiler, because I got yelled at a lot last week for, like, quote unquote spoiling things. So, spoiler, I'm gonna kind of go into the ending of Eden Lake here real quick, because I think it's like a very great conversation to have. But again, spoiler, 3, 2, 1, spoiler. Her not having a happy ending. When she gets to that house and it's revealed that the people that live at that house is the family of the little fucking shit that she has been dealing with the entire day. And she sees that dog bowl and she's like, oh fuck, we killed the dog. And she notices, she realizes this is not good. This is the family of this little fucker that I've been dealing with. And she goes and she hides in the bathroom, and it's just a matter of time. And you hear the sound effects of, of the family finding out that, what has happened. And the dad's beating on the fucking door. Let me in, open the fucking door. And just like, dude, that entire buildup, there's nowhere for her to go. She can't escape. There's nowhere for her to go. She's fucked. And to me, I view, and of course, they break through the door, and you don't necessarily see what happens. And I think that's the big thing. with people. One, they wanted her to have a happy ending, and they didn't show it. And even though that they didn't necessarily show it, it was very much implied that she does not get that. And I think that for a lot of audience members, they don't like that. They wanted her. She's gone through all this dread, all this trauma, all these hardships. She saw her fucking fiance get set on fire. And then at the end of all that, she still doesn't, like, she doesn't make it out. And that's just too dread and too depressing and sad for people, and they don't like it. I get it. But maybe it's my pessimistic nature. And I definitely think it's how you view the world. And I, for a long time, but like specifically like the last, I would say 7 years, I'm getting better at it. In my opinion, I have a long way to go. I'm working on it in therapy, whatever. But I view the world from a like dark place. I look at, I look at people. I don't trust a lot of people. I look at the world as like a scary, dark place. I view good things in life as temporary versus the bad things in life being temporary. So to me, I watch a movie like Eden Lake and I'm like, yes, thank you. Specifically in the US of A, our horror movies typically end in all of these hardships. The main character gets out happy. I don't want to say a happy ending or they live the rest of their life happy or whatever, because then you have the argument of like, well, they've gone through all this trauma and their life is going to be different. Yes, for sure. But I think you know what I'm putting down. There's always this like the main character gets out, survives, overcomes all this stuff. And in life, that doesn't happen all the time. And I like when movies take that route of you thought they were going to be fine. You thought something was going to happen where they're going to get out of this situation. This time, they're not. And I don't think that every single horror movie needs to do that because I don't think that that is realistic. But Eden Lake was one of the first. Jeepers Creepers was, I think, well, Blair Witch, they don't really make it out of that, but you expected them not to make it out of that. You went into the movie, like they're lost and like it's like you knew that they weren't going to like come out of the woods and go, there's our car. But Jeepers Creepers was one of the first movies where like the bad guy won. Eden Lake is another one that I can sit there and say like early on, not early, but like another movie that I can't really name a lot of movies that I watched growing up where like the bad guy won, and Eden Lake is one that really stuck out to me personally of like, not everything ends with a nice, pretty little bow. Not everybody makes it out of a hard situation. Not everybody is going to come out of the rain dry and happy and, or whatever. And I liked it. So I think the big divide of Eden Lake has to come down to the ending. And I, for one, look at the ending of Eden Lake as perfect. And I get a lot of shit when I say that. So I don't know that that's a popular opinion, but I know there's a lot of people out there like me as well, that this movie is like the epitome of, if you want to watch a fucking horror movie, Eden Lake, lock in. So if you couldn't guess, I love Eden Lake. I don't know that I'm as big of a fan of Eden Lake as Chuck the movie guy. Chuck loves this fucking movie. There is I don't want to tell Chuck's business, but there are a certain set of things that Chuck owns with Eden Lake that puts him on a whole other level of being a fan. Nothing crazy, nothing like, but I don't want to put out Chuck's personal business on the podcast. But when he showed me what he bought, I was like, brother, I love that so fucking much, man. I love Chuck. Eden Lake. Eden Lake, you can watch on Tubi. I am very certain. Tubi. But it's on Tubi, Pluto TV, the Roku channel, Plex. I just got a German import of Eden Lake. It's so cool, man. I need to buy a little tangent. I need to buy a region-free 4K player. I have one picked out. I haven't bought it yet, and I don't know why. I just need to just get it done because then I can watch my German import version of Eden Lake in 4K. Yes, sir. But again, we went through the smallest bit of British horror, and we talked about some in more in depth. We kind of like ran through some like obvious ones or whatever, but if there's any British horror movies that I missed that you love, please leave them in the comments. I would love to check those out. I know Chuck loves Kill List. That's a big one for him. I need to rewatch it because I didn't necessarily love it when I first watched it. But Chuck's a big Kill List fan. When I was looking up UK horror, that came up a lot. But if there's any other British horror movies that you love, throw them down in the comments. Let's chat about them. I can't fucking wait. Thanks, guys, again, as always, every week. Thank you for supporting the podcast. If you could leave a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple, that really helps get the podcast out into the algorithm. I would really appreciate it to get more horror-loving people to like find the podcast, and let's grow this fucking thing together. I just love talking about horror. So if as many people that we can get to listen to this and we can talk about our scary shit, the better. If you're on YouTube, if you haven't subscribed, or leave a comment and share it with a friend. It's something I'm all about, just growing everything this year. And part of that is legitimately like having supporters like you and sharing this and just getting it out to more people. So there is a Ko-fi link within the Spotify show notes that you can like donate if you want to. It's not required, but there's that. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. So if you randomly found the podcast and you haven't followed me on any of those, that's where I post every day. More so TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. YouTube is not an everyday situation right now, but thank you guys for all the support. Again, I hope you have a great weekend. And remember, watch something spooky this week.